friends. This is the program Empire of Lies, where we discuss manipulation and disinformation in the Russian media. Russian TV is selling Europe a new war. In Vladimir Solovyov's program, Russian viewers are treated to a highly concentrated mixture of what today might be called military technological messianism. For European readers, it's not so much each individual statement that matters, but the overall picture they paint. The West is supposedly weak, cowardly, and technologically backward, while Russia is the only player both morally and technically prepared for a big war. From Tomahawks to nuclear blackmail. The topic of discussion is a remark by US Republican Congressman Denver Riggleman about the need for more extensive armament of Ukraine, primarily with Tomahawk cruise missiles and, ideally, F-35 fighter jets. In the Western debate, this is a debate about the acceptable level of risk and deterrence, where the line is drawn between supporting Kyiv and NATO's direct war with Russia. In Solovyov's studio, the framework is different. The congressman is immediately declared brainless, and the key message on the Russian side is, "We were just learning to fight against NATO equipment. There's nothing new for us about Tomahawks." Then comes a sharp leap, from a discussion of conventional weapons to a direct reference to nuclear war. The phrase "Comrade Stalin straight" is mentioned, a transparent allusion to the old Soviet joke that a new strait would appear in place of the English Channel after a nuclear strike. Then comes the classic formula, why a world without Russia? For Russian viewers, such rhetoric sounds familiar. For European viewers, it's important. This isn't an isolated slip of the tongue from a radical fringe figure, but rather the standardized language for discussing relations with NATO during prime time. Nuclear blackmail is presented as a natural, rational response to discussions about arms supplies to Ukraine. The myth of unique combat experience and NATO's quagmire. The next motive is the confidence in Russia's military superiority over the West. Solovyov and his guests construct a whole pyramid of arguments. The F-35 burns like any aircraft and allegedly has not yet encountered modern Russian air defense systems. Western weapons and armored vehicle performance are ridiculed, using the example of the failed Leopards and Abrams on the Ukrainian front. Russian artillery and missile specialists are portrayed as possessing experience unmatched by any other army in the world. From this, the conclusion is drawn: any conflict with NATO would allegedly not be a terrifying qualitative leap for Russia, but merely an expansion of an already familiar war, while Western armies are stuck in a swamp, lacking either real combat experience or readiness for a difficult war. For the European reader, it is important to distinguish between the propaganda image and reality. Yes, the Russian army has indeed gained vast experience in the war against Ukraine, but the price of this experience has been tens of thousands of casualties and a depleted economy. This isn't discussed in the studio. The experience is romanticized, and the war is transformed into a kind of HR project, creating unique specialists. Republican Congressman Denver Riggleman clearly has no brains. I think at some point the US is going to have to make a decision to arm Ukraine on a large scale. It wouldn't be easy. I mean, training F-35 pilots quickly would be a real challenge. There are some of the best pilots in the world, but I'll tell you this. If there was a way we could use an allied F-35, that would be fantastic. Look, Tomahawks would make the Russians nervous, very nervous. I think we're at a point now where weapons like Tomahawks would make the Russians hesitate because they don't really have anything that can counter them. When we talk about something like that, cruise missiles or Tomahawks, the Russians are going to be upset. And again, I think we probably should have done this sooner. What Denver completely fails to understand is that our army was just learning to fight against NATO equipment. And Tomahawks are nothing new to us, but are the Americans confident they can withstand our might. Because, as Mikhail Mikhailovich and Yakov Lvovich have said many times, it's quite foolish to think we'll fight them the way we fight the Ukrainians. Smart war and the cult of artificial intelligence. Particular emphasis is placed on technology. Solovyov's guest asserts that artificial intelligence can already shoot down artillery and anti-tank shells. In the future, it will effectively combat hypersonic weapons. Everything we know about past wars will be completely different tomorrow. Against this backdrop, the thesis is voiced. Russia must increase funding for science, R&D, and the development of talented youth by 40 to 50 times in order to achieve global dominance. The connection is simple and crucial. Artificial intelligence plus missiles plus strategic military experience equals a guarantor of Russia's security and an instrument of global influence. To an outside observer, this seems like a strange mixture of the rational and the fantastical. On the one hand, the very question of the need for investment in science is perfectly reasonable. Russia is indeed lagging far behind in a number of critical technologies. On the other hand, it all strictly follows the logic of militarization. It's not about economic development and quality of life, but about readiness for any war as the state's highest goal. Think, analyze, draw conclusions, and don't be fooled. This was the program Empire of Lies.